No new customer comes in without touching an existing customer in some way.
I think sometimes customers can find ways to use your product that you weren't even thinking of.
Hey, here's my deal notes. Can you recommend some case studies for my next conversation? If you think about who is typically representing your product or service to someone, it's a salesperson. And salespeople, their job is to sell you the thing. They have a vested interest. They're getting compensated on you making a choice in their favor. And so I think rightfully so, a lot of people don't trust salespeople. It's not to say we don't like our salespeople, but the average consumer does not really trust what a salesperson says, but they trust what a customer and a consumer says because that person has no vested interest. They're not getting anything, and they would only recommend something if it actually worked for them, right? If someone's really unhappy, maybe they'll complain about it. A lot of people will just stay quiet, but you have to actually like something to advocate for it. So I think it's just more trustworthy. And so there's research from Nielsen that 92% of people trust a referral. And so that's why I think any kind of customer proof, but especially customer stories and case studies are so powerful.
That's great. And yeah, I think, any kind of meeting with a salesperson or any kind of interaction, there's kind of a natural skepticism. Customer stories can really kind of build that trust. How do you equip salespeople with customer stories that are really going to make a difference?
Usually you want to have a diversity of them. So tying to your different parts of your product, different value props, use cases, things like that. And I can think of a few customer stories that we have that are just good catch-all. They cover most of our value props. They cover most of our use cases. They're really like our dream customer. And to have those in your back pocket, right? So I could be having a conversation with anyone off the street with zero preparation, and I could share a customer story because I just have that one or two in the back of my mind. Sometimes we'll just have bullet points, key takeaways from something. So it's like, what was the problem? How did we help? What have they been able to do since then? If they can get those three things really quickly, then as they're preparing for a conversation, even if it's not a case study that they really have memorized, they can hit those three bullet points naturally and organically and kind of weave that into conversation.
In terms of bullet points, how are you delivering those to your salespeople that are really going to make an impact?
So we do a couple things. One is when we send out a new case study, we'll send out the whole case study, but then we'll do a quick summary in the email. So we'll say, here's the audience, here's the use case, and here's kind of some key highlights from the case study. So they have that from the get-go because I don't expect every salesperson to read every single case study. We also create slides for their slide decks that include some of those bullet points. So as they're preparing for a demo or a conversation, if they know that's a case study they want to pull in, they have those bullet points already ready for them on the slide. Something we're working on is programming a ChatGPT model with all of our customer proof points so that as they're preparing for a meeting, they can say, this is the audience, the use case, the parts of the product, the value props, the problems that they want to solve. Which case studies do you recommend? And then ChatGPT can kind of pull up, like, what are those bullet points? That way they can have those to prepare for the conversation, because I don't want them to just pull in a slide and then be, kind of choppily reading bullet points off a slide. I want them to know the gist of it so that they can just organically, oh yeah, we actually had a customer who was just like you and they had XYZ situation. Here's what they did and here's how we were able to help. So, I'd be happy to share with you that case study if that's of interest to you.
Let's dive a little bit into the actual bullet points you're using. Like, is it the transformation? Is it the pain points a customer had? Like, what specifically are you trying to pull from those bullet points?
We structure our case studies in the challenge, solution, results. And I know there's a lot of different feelings on that. I love a good story form, but I think if you think about how case studies are being used, it's to validate a decision that they're already making. And so you need it to be easy to follow. Challenge, solution, results is a format that most people are familiar with. They know what to find and where to find it. And then I want bullet points that are skimmable. So, in the challenge, we might talk about, hey, this is their context. This is why they started looking for a learning management system. In the solution, we say, like, what were they looking for? They were looking for something that integrated with their CRM or HCM. They were looking for something that could consolidate different disparate platforms. They were looking for something that had robust reporting, right? All the things that are really like those key value props. And so that's in the case study. And then that's some of what we'll pull into that email to say, okay, here are the main things, right? This is an integration story. This is a consolidation story. This is a reporting story. This is a inline content authoring story. And so we're pulling in some of those things so that they know that's kind of a key point, or I can find that value prop in this story. Because it's much easier than trying to like read a whole 2-page, 3-page case study and then try to pull that out yourself. When we're communicating the story, we want to communicate our enthusiasm and excitement for how amazing our customers are and what cool things they're doing, and wow, we get to be a part of it. And then I think that excitement is contagious. How do we just be obsessed with our customers and the cool and amazing things that they're doing?
I think sometimes customers can find ways to use your product that you weren't even thinking of. Those can sometimes be the most memorable, the most compelling for other potential customers. Can you talk about matching specific case studies to specific leads that you're talking to?
We have kind of a map of what are our value props, what are our product modules, what are the use cases, what are the industries and audiences. And so we have these different, do we have something for that? Do we have something that can speak to this? So if we think about kind of mapping out and then seeing where are the gaps, where do we not have anything that we want to create something? And then we just aggressively tag everything, not even that we're going to use all those tags maybe today, but that we have all of that and we're in this habit so that we can get more niche in our conversations with prospects. We're asking what is that most important thing, and then they can kind of filter and sort. So in today's world, tagging, filtering, sorting. In a future world, Jessica Nolan gave me this idea because she had kind of a whole case study library built out and then layered a ChatGPT model on the top so that it could source and reference these things. And we're just trying to make it so easy for our reps to find exactly what it is. So they can say, hey, here's my deal notes. Can you recommend some case studies for my next conversation? And then it'll do that and then pull up those bullet points too for their conversation.
So if I'm understanding it correctly, ChatGPT is kind of a layer on top of this database in the background with all your case studies. Are you using a specific tool to kind of build that database?
We're using Airtable. So we have a lot of things built in Airtable, and we're using it kind of as this backend database that we can build a lot on top of. We've been in kind of crawl, walk, run, in the early days. We've got case studies and you could post in the sales team channel and we will tell you which one you should look at. And then it's, okay, let's tag and filter. And now, okay, let's actually get smarter. And we're also pulling together not just case studies, but proof points across the board. So do we have quotes, testimonials? Do we have reviews, case studies, proof points, anything, and just pulling together like a whole customer proof library that can be pulled from too. That way we're not limited to only these full stories, but also what are those proof points that we can speak to.
That's really interesting, kind of dividing it up into proof points within the case study. Is that all just text-based?
Text-based for now. And then that's something that we talked about where it was like, all right, not to get cart before the horse, but maybe we even have all these proof points and we tag the proof points. Like, is there a world where we take all those bullet points and we tag all those? So that's not today's world. That's just ideas for the future. But to get to that point where people might be interested in this thing, not necessarily the whole shebang.
Well, thanks, Shannon. That was a really great conversation. Really appreciate you talking with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was fun. I think, customer stories, bringing the customer. I usually say, no new customer comes in without touching an existing customer in some way. There was a referral, there was a recommendation, there was a reference, there was a review, or there was a case study. There was just something that made them feel confident to buy.
I think that's perfect. A great way to wrap up. Thanks, Shannon.
Yeah.